Good day, fine people, a very warm welcome to you. My name is Nick, and you might have come to this video after watching Chapter 1. Well, this is Chapter 2, so to speak. It's Commodore 64 games we've reviewed on the channel, 51 through to 100. So we won't hang around, let's get going, big nose. And we're starting off with Continental Circus, a hugely popular chase view racing game from the arcades. Essentially go round as quickly as you can, the time's ticking down in the middle. You need to get up to a number of different positions to qualify on each lap. We're starting on rank 100, here we've got to get over to 80, so not too dissimilar to Super Monaco Grand Prix in that regard. So instead of cockpit view, we've got chase view instead. It moves at a decent frame rate, and if you had a Commodore 64 at the time, this would be a must-have game. Championship Sprint, also from the arcades, very basic back in an early era of arcade racing. It spawned quite a few different sequels there, but you need to win each race, get those spanners for upgrades to your car, and it was great fun. Took a lot of coinage down the arcades back in the day. Reviewed this on quite a few different systems, such as its popularity. It led to other games like Hot Rod and Nitro and all those future ones to come. Attack of the Mutant Camels, a little bit of fun here from Jeffrey Minter. Influenced by the game Empire Strikes Back, we have to take down ATACs and the Atari 2600 or Imperial Walkers. Here instead, we're taking out Camels, so it avoids any Star Wars license. Great fun, great sounds from the thing, and I think it may have had a sequel called Revenge of the Mutant Camels. Not sure that came out on the Commodore 64, so we'll have to check that one out as well. But you know, very funny game. Homebrew, Night Law, didn't come out on the Commodore 64 back in the day, but here it is, someone's done it, and it's a great conversion. It's an isometric 3D exploration where you control Saberman. He's trying to break the curse where he turns into a werewolf there backward and forward, and I think you have to get a load of potions to put in a cauldron. I always found the judging where to go a little bit difficult there with the angles and the views, but it was a classic back in the day, and I'm glad it finally got a homebrew release. Scuba Dive, a real big favourite game of mine back in the day on the ZX Spectrum. This plays quite a bit different. It's a little bit smaller, and where the Spectrum version was scrolling across, this one seems to have lost it with single screen, although you can go back through that hole in the middle there that gradually opens up to get a bit further down. The fish move at different speeds here, and I think it's lost a bit of its cuteness. I don't know what's happened here. I'm sure they could have done a truer conversion than what they did here, so I was a little disappointed by this one, only because of my memories of the Spectrum. 1942, a vertical scrolling shooter again from the arcades. Great music on this one. A little bit tricky as a lot of them were. Well, I found, because I was a bit of a newbie noob. But also, if you persist with this, you're going to get quite a bit of distance, so it's good. It moves quite well. The collision detection can't be faulted really, and there's some good end level bosses too. As I say, a right raising theme music to accompany you on your amazing mission in 1942. A plane shooter. Afterburner, always found my success on these a little bit random. That's no different here on the Commodore 64 version. Sega Mega Drive was okay, but it's got a bit of a beef to it. But 8-bits are always going to struggle with this kind of chase view sort of game. Would have people that liked it, but you know, it's really hard to get tactics when the frame rate is of this sort of thing. But it's doing a great job to replicate it anyway, and it would have sufficed without blowing the world away, in my opinion. But, you know, it would have had its supporters back in the day. Ghosts and Goblins, this is the arcade version, so different from the original release of Ghosts and Goblins. Someone's gone over it and given it an improved reskin there, and it's very accurate to the arcades, to be honest with you. It comes on a disc with Commando, the arcade version, as well. So Arthur's never looked so good in 8-bit, and I think it's probably the best 8-bit version of Ghosts and Goblins you can actually get. A ferociously difficult game. Some people might have completed it, but it would have taken them a long time without cheats at least. Tetris, you know, a popular game on all formats. You don't really need me to explain Tetris. Originally designed by Alexei Pachinov in Russia there, but essentially complete lines by putting shapes in different places, and then the line will disappear to free up more of the screen. If the screen fills up, well, you know what I'm going to say, then it's game over, big nose. Interesting music on this one, moves a little bit slower. It's a little bit not 100% smooth, but it will suffice. It would have been okay back in the day. Now, I mentioned it earlier, this is Super Monaco Grand Prix. A little bit like Continental Circus, but instead a cockpit view. It's a bit smoother in animation. Also there, you see our position is 6, position limit is 11. You don't just get Monaco, you get a few series of races. And what's good about this is look at the rear view display up the top there. You can see cars coming from behind, which is pretty special for this sort of era. It's not something you'd expect to see. Different weather conditions. I think this is rain here, represented by the grey sky, which affects your steering going around. Jack and the Beanstalk actually hated this on the ZX Spectrum on budget label, and it's no better on the Commodore 64 as well. It'd drive you absolutely crazy as you try and get up the first initial Beanstalk, but it's a number of screens, about 3 or 4 I think. Essentially you need to defeat the giant as always, but this is the hard bit, getting up here without getting hit by anything. Commodore 64 version seems slightly easier, but not by a great deal, and no, you'll be getting really annoyed. Another great late homebrew from the Ultimate game, ATIC Attack, didn't come out on the Commodore 64 back in the day, but here it is, and it has been improved over that one. Look at the colours, there's multiple colours on the characters rather than just a white colour. The map is accurate, the sounds are accurate as well, so you've always hankered for ATIC Attack on the Commodore 64. Here it is for you, and I was really impressed with this one. It does improve over the original using the extra memory available. Collect 3 keys, or 3 parts of a key to escape. MONTEZUMA'S Revenge, I first played this on the Atari 2600. It looks pretty basic for a Commodore 64 game, but it is still quite good fun really. Essentially you need to find a number of keys there to finally escape this maze network. You get keys by opening sort of like doors. So, you know, it's an unusual one. I don't know fully what to make of the thing, but, you know, didn't know much about it back in the day. It does feel like an Atari 2600 game still, but there's a little bit more detail there to warrant the release. Well done, Montezuma. Daley Thompson's Super Test, a game that broke a load of joysticks. After the success of Daley Thompson's Decathlon over 10 events, they wanted to improve it, or extend it, or make more money, Ocean, so they invented 10 more games, including rowing, football penalties, ski jump, cycling, all things that Daley Thompson would never ever do. I think tug of war's in there as well. So, you know, if you like the first game Decathlon and wanted more of a challenge, then this is the same sort of thing, and I bought it for the Spectrum. I loved it. ARKANOID, influenced by Breakout from the arcades, but a game in its own right. To essentially destroy all the blocks here. There's upgrades too, but sometimes if you try and get those, you'll end up missing the ball completely. It's got a sequel as well, which we'll probably come to in this like a collection of reviews. It is 30-second blips or footages of all the games reviewed so far. If you want to see more the full review, then check out the Commodore 64 playlist. Click on my username, get to the channel page, click on playlist, and you'll be there. River Raid, there's lots of different versions of River Raid on different systems. This is one of the easiest ones because the plane is so small. But essentially, you need to collect fuel, don't run out of fuel, and blast your way past each bridge, taking them out each time, and get as far as you possibly can. There's a bridge I've taken out, cool. The original was on the Atari 2600, which is the classic version. Other versions don't seem to be quite as difficult as those ones, but it's good to see. If I had a Commodore 64 back in the day, I certainly would have bought this one. School Days, influenced by TV programs like Grange Hill back in the day. You control the character of Eric, and he must somehow break into the safe to prevent his bad school report getting back to his parents saying what a rubbish student he is. You get that by getting a water pistol and hitting shields, but really what you're really doing is catapulting all the teachers, pretending they were your teachers from school, and punching all your mates in the face. Great fun. Alien Storm, again from the arcades. It's like a science fiction version or a future version of Golden Axe. There's 3 characters to choose from. It's multiple player there. But aliens are attacking the Earth, and we must blast them in this horizontal scroller shooter type thing. Heaps of fun with 2 players. There's a lot more colour than the Spectrum version, and it plays sort of okay. I would have been quite pleased with this one back in the day. And there's nice music to accompany you all the way through the game. Crazy Cars 3, a Chase View, a race game. Not sure Crazy Cars 1 and 2 come out on the Commodore 64, but yeah, a fantastic game on the Commodore Amiga. Not quite as good on this, but it's quite smooth. The road is a little bit narrow for my mind, and it's a little bit flickery, the whole game, but they tried to do that to increase the speed, I believe, as I was told, I think, in the comment section of that particular game. So different races, try and win to collect money, to enter other races and be a badass. Logical. I had this on the demo on the Commodore Amiga, but essentially you've got these cogs spinning around on different levels there, and you must fill the cog with all colours of the same ball you see coming across the top before the time runs out to blow up that particular cog. Blow up all 4 cogs and it's on to the next stage. It's a thinking game, you can run out of room real quick, and the future levels get very, very complicated indeed. You've got to be a bit logical about it. Nice music on this one as well. Target Renegade, most people will have heard of this game. It's a 2D scroller, horizontal scroller fighting game where you can pick up weapons and must battle your way through different levels of this, I think, multi-story building to rescue someone or other. Endurance in the bottom left. I always found this bit a bit tricky, especially on this version. They're getting run over by the motorbike men, but you know, one of the classics back in the day, but I do fall on the same move each time, which is the lunging kick. If you had any of these, comment below. Shadow of the Beast, great to see this on an 8-bit system. Look at the parallax scrolling down the bottom, that's a very nice thing to see in 8-bit. Game was a huge hit on the Commodore Amiga and 16-bit games. There, you wouldn't have thought this was possible on the system, but it scrolls pretty well. You must complete a mission in this strange fantasy land. I don't think Shadow of the Beast 2 come out on this system, but you know, good music, really creates the panpipes, which is Psygnosis is one of their special things. Great Giant Sisters 2, this is a homebrew. I played lots and lots of time on the first game. I think they've taken the code and just designed new levels. All the power-ups are exactly the same as that first game. So if you completed the first one or just wanted an extra challenge, this isn't as, well, another one using the same code essentially. It's a little bit more difficult there, but yes, very nice to see. Surprised there weren't other ones, to be honest with you, but I love Great Giant Sisters. There's an advanced version on the Commodore Amiga if you want to check that one out, we've also reviewed. Everyone's a Wally. Now this game looks very Spectrum. It looks like they've gone out of their way to make the palette look like the ZX Spectrum, which they didn't really need to do that on the Commodore 64. I just like it when a system stays its own system and creates its own version there. But it looks like there's a little bit more room. But you control any one of Wally and his, I think, 4 or 5 mates, and they must collect objects, put them in the right place in order to break open a safe to get paid for an honest day's work. Yes, it's a complicated business. Their plays exactly the same as the Spectrum version. Pang from the arcade. You've probably heard of this one. It's a very Japanesey type of game, but using a number of weapons you can pick up. You must destroy all these balls, which they break into smaller balls once you shoot them, to then progress. If you get hit by a ball, then obviously you're dead. Now the collision detection isn't brilliant on this one, so you have to give the balls a bit more of a wide berth than you would on the others. So you know, it does get a bit frustrating in that regard, but it's still okay to see, and it does a good job. James Bond 2, codename ROBOCOP. Yes, the Commodore 64 is really struggling here. It's a great game on the Commodore Amiga, although it did annoy quite a few people with its chocolate box niceties. But it's all right here, but yeah, it might frustrate you. It's a bit washed out, the graphics there of James Bond in particular, but it's James Bond and RoboCop sort of like mixed together. It's a bit of a challenge. You won't be completing this on your first go. West Bank. Again from the arcades, you are an accountant in a bank, or a bank worker, and there's people coming to deposit money in the bank. You've got to scroll around. As soon as you've got all 12 doors, you see across the top there with people that have deposited money, then you've completed that stage. But when the door opens, not everyone's a good guy, and you'll have to shoot them. So shoot the bad guys, let the good people come in and deposit their money into the bank, so you don't get robbed essentially, and the bank loses money. Escape, a nice classic example of an early maze game. Played this a lot on the ZX Spectrum, so I was glad to see it on the Commodore 64. You choose how many dinosaurs that you're trying to outrun, but you need to find an axe somewhere at random in this maze. Once you pick it up, you go a lot slower. Once you have found the axe, then you get up to that door, which is always in the top left, and smash through there to escape. With 5 dinosaurs, it gets a bit hectic because one of them's a flying one, a pterodactyl. Great fun there. ARKANOID Revenge of Doe, of course, a sequel to ARKANOID we've looked at already in this sort of like summing up there. It's a little bit quicker, I think, but the same sort of thing again. So if you like the original ARKANOID, you'll like ARKANOID Revenge of Doe. Not sure it's influenced by Homer Simpson, but every time you lose a life, you can say "Doe" if you want to. Right? Okay. Keep hitting that ball back, and that's all you need to do. We've already looked at Daley Thompson's Super Test, so here's Daley Thompson's Decathlon. A little bit different to the Spectrum. I don't remember split screen on that one, so it looks very like track and field from the arcades, this first bit, of course, but all the events are there. 100 metres, long jump, all that you expect from Daley Thompson's original Decathlon. Plays a little bit different, so if you haven't selected this version before and you own a Commodore 64, I would highly recommend it. But again, it is a joystick breaker. I played it on keys there because I can't afford to replace endless joysticks. Badlands, a sequel as such to Super Sprint, so as you can see it's a lot more advanced than that one. I think it's like the second evolution. There's gateways that are open up. It's a post-apocalyptic world. Again, try and get as high up, potentially win to upgrade your car there and beat absolutely everyone. This is really good fun. A great evolution on the original Super Sprint, and it's one of my favourite top-down race games in 8-bit town. Hooray! Indie Heat, again top down, but from a certain oblique view. It's based on IndyCar racing. Again, try and win the races. When you run out of fuel, essentially that you need to pit. But it gets a bit aggressive when you pit because other cars can knock you out of your pit box, which wouldn't happen in the real world. It moves at a good rate. It's fair gameplay. The collision detection is pretty cool, and it's a game that I think has got classic status. Here's me pulling into the pits, the red car. It fixes that. You don't want to run out of gas or create maximum damage. Maziacs, basically this is a maze game, great fun. You can bring out the map at any stage. There's these people trapped in the wall, which will give you the route to collect gold. You need to avoid the Maziacs, or at least kill them if you get a sword. It's pretty random if you win or not. So get to the centre of the maze, collect the box of treasure, and then get back to the start again to actually win. It's a little bit of a challenge. The maze is random each time. People in the water remind me a little bit of those guys stuck in Aliens. Kane, another classic game. It's a collection of mini games set in the Wild West. This one you need to shoot ducks out of the sky. I don't know why. Maybe we're going to have them for dinner later on. There's a few other stages where you're riding a horse. There's a shootout as well. You know, and it's great fun. Kane came out on the Spectrum also, but Kane 2 didn't, and it did on the Commodore 64 there. So it was a bit of a hit, this game. Now, a great program, this, the Trap Door. Number of missions, great cartoony graphics, and large characters. There's nothing not to like in this game. There's Boney there in the background, the skull. You can pick him up to get sort of like tips. But the bloke upstairs is going to shout down food orders he needs and releasing the correct person or creature from the trapdoor, and all these objects here, we need to prepare that before the time runs out. 2 methods of play: Learner Burke for newbies and Super Burke for people that are insane. Kane 2, more of the same. If you play the original Kane, you'll like this one. Here I am in a shootout for Apache, ready to shoot various people. Again, there's another mission where you're on a horseback. Didn't come out on the Spectrum, I don't know why, so maybe it was a Commodore 64 exclusive. If you had it on the Amstrad CPC, then let me know as well. Nice gentle music, nice and relaxing. The Commodore 64 could have some good music bumping away there in the background, and gentle music too. I love it. Then we've got ROBOCOP, a little bit flawed this version, doesn't actually play the ROBOCOP music, plays a different one. There's a bit flaw later on in the game, that if you get to a certain distance it will just cut up, and I thought it was my version first of all, but I've been told that's on every version because I wasn't expecting people to get that far. So it's very difficult. The first level is okay, introduces you to RoboCop, but the Spectrum versions, or the Amiga version, say, where the action is, that doesn't cut at all, and that's playing the proper music. Now, the Wild Bunch. Now, this is a homebrew as well. I really like this on the ZX Spectrum. Again, this is another one of those games that didn't come out on the original Commodore 64. So they converted it now, and what a great conversion it is. It's like a choose your own adventure sort of game, really. You need to capture 5 members of the Wild Bunch to clear your name for a murder you didn't commit. They've added music onto this and a few other bells and whistles. You can't do the cheat of 0.1 of a horse, unfortunately, but I absolutely love this. A great game. Supercars, this is a top-down racing game, also come out on the Commodore Amiga. Here's a little bit more basic, but it does capture a lot of the cool gameplay. It moves at a good rate, the scrolling is good, and I would have loved playing this back in the day. The sound is alright as well, much better than the ZX Spectrum version. It's a bit higher pitched for my ears, so there we go, a big plus there. Quite a lot of good games here. If you like any of the saying these short clips, do watch the full review and show them some love. Blockbusters from the TV show. Have an L, please, Bob. I think it was on ITV or BBC. By answering these quiz questions, beginning with the letter of the hexagon that you pick, you need to either get horizontally across or vertically, depending if you use the 2 players or the 1 player back in the day. It's got a good bank of questions there, and I think once you've learned all those, because the same ones will keep coming up eventually, you can actually load a different bank of questions there. Good animation of Bob there in the bottom right too. Well done, Bob. R-Type from the arcades, a big hit there. A horizontal scroller shooter, very difficult for the newbie, but not impossible. By holding the fire button down and then releasing, you could do a bigger blast there. But it's all about learning the terrain there, and as I say, getting a professional with the thing. Amazing music going through, and no slow down while the music's playing at the same time, and that is pretty special stuff. Really impressive. R-Type. I always struggle with these games, but you know, people would have loved this one if they was any good. Here we go, Duck Shoot, quite a basic game from early gaming here. We need to shoot these ducks as they come through without running out of bullets, and also shoot letters to spell the word bonus. And that's essentially it. Not sure if it captured many kids' attention, but maybe it's one for the younger gamers because it's quite basic there. It could have been a little bit more exciting for my money, but you know, it's alright. It's there as a piece of history. Duck Shoot. This ain't no Duck Shoot. Well, it is. Bubble Dizzy. This is one of the Bubble Dizzy like side games really compared to the main Bubble Dizzy series. Good graphics on this and good music as well. Essentially, by jumping on these bubbles, we must get to the top of the screen to eventually rescue our girlfriend. The bubbles only stay there a certain length of time, so that's where the skill comes involved, and gradually you will run out of oxygen or strength. There we go. So numerous levels. They get progressively more difficult, as you would be able to imagine. I think our girlfriend's been kidnapped by some pirate or something. So there's us doing it again. Chuck Rock, another game I'm quite amazed come out on the Commodore 64. I first played this on the Commodore Amiga. Amiga had some funky groovy music going all the way through it. Well, this one can't quite do that, but it does capture the comic qualities of Chuck Rock, and the level design is virtually the same, although like slightly lesser graphics, which you would imagine. Great fun. Chuck Rock needs to rescue his girlfriend, Ophelia. I think it's been kidnapped by Gary Gritter. Yes, we better not mention too much about him. Gauntlet, a top-down game from the arcades, another hugely popular one from there. 1 to 4 players. I was the only player here, but you must battle your way versus zombies and ghosts and get to the exit each time and collect keys as well. Stay alive as long as you possibly can. That's the level there, but you know, a huge hit. We've reviewed quite a few different versions of Gauntlet on different systems over the years, and it always has the same level of play, apart from that 3D one we reviewed, which didn't quite work there. I don't know what that one was. Park Patrol. Now, you play the ranger. You can select to be a female ranger or a male ranger, but it doesn't make too much difference to the game. You going in the river and offshore, you must collect 10, I think, or 10 or 12 bits of rubbish to get to the next stage, but all the time avoiding all the nasties. We're in some sort of like national park, and people keep throwing rubbish about. What's up with these people? I think they should be shot, but very addictive. Don't drown, and look out for swimmers that'll capsize you. Super Space Invaders, yes, influenced by the original Space Invaders from the late 70s, but this gives you a bit more, including one of the games you have to shoot aliens from kidnapping your cows. But if you like Space Invaders, you want a bit of an extra challenge, here it is. Come out on a number of systems as well there. I do like the sound of this. This isn't Space Invaders, this is Super Space Invaders, and it's got some nice backgrounds too. There are quite a number of levels to get through to keep you entertained. Ghost Chaser, I wasn't a big fan of this one. You're controlling the character a bit like an older version of Super Mario, but the jumping is a little bit hard to judge, and it does get a little bit annoying. The colour palette is a bit washed out, but maybe you need the practice there. But it's a sort of game that I only played for a few minutes, and immediately I wanted to turn the thing off. It's sort of like flip screen, so to speak. Collect keys, go through doors, and do other stuff. Move on, nothing to see here. Blazing Thunder come out on a number of different systems, and it's very different on each system. The Commodore 64 version is quite good, actually. We're in this tank, shooting people like crazy, going up the screen. That's essentially it. So it's like Commando in a tank. So if you're into Commando, Mercs, or Akari Warriors, you might get a bit of fun out of this one as well. The tank looks ridiculously small. Commodore Amiga, it was ridiculously big, so it's one or the other, really. It looked like Rambo wearing a dress in that version. And then we've got Gyrus, which we're going to finish up on from the arcades again. It's a shooter with a difference. We're going through different planets in the solar system, liberating them. We go around in a circle, left or right, or clockwise and anti-clockwise, trying to get as far as we possibly can back to Earth, essentially. There. Another addictive game. It was coming on the Atari 2600, which might be worth looking. You haven't seen that already. So that is essentially the next 50 games. Commodore 64 games, 51 through to 100, so check out the first instalment on the playlist. So, we reviewed less of those at the moment than we have other systems, but we're gradually catching up. So thank you for watching that. I hope you enjoyed that index or that trip through, which we do every 50 games on each system we do. If you want to see more, then check out the reviewed game playlist there on the playlist tab on the main page by clicking on my username. So, till next time, take great care of yourself. Put any comments below, you're more than welcome. And a very fond goodbye.
Goodbye.